You're new to the One Ring role-playing game and you're wondering how the game or the character tracks any of the items that their player hero can carry. Generally, for anything that's mundane, like clothes and whatnot, backpacks, etc., anything that it's not really applicable to combat or applicable to some type of skill, generally you don't need to write that down. It's just assumed that you have everything that you need to be adventuring. However, there's a few things called useful items, and any tool, instrument, or a device that's carried by the player hero to perform one or more specific tasks is called a useful item. This could be anything like a hammer to hit nails, could be a hunting knife to cut skins off a hunted animal. It could be something as a coil of good, well-made rope, lantern, something like that. And these are definitely things that you would want to keep track of. Now, players are free to choose their useful items as they see fit. However, there are some limitations to how many you can carry, and it's all based on your standard of living. And for instance, if you're poor, you can have no useful items. If you're frugal, like elves or rangers of the north starting out, you can only carry one. The prosperous cultures, like bardings and dwarves, can carry up to 3 right off the bat. This is one of the reasons why you go out and seek treasure and coin to bring up your total treasure points and increase your standing of living so that you can have more useful items for when you're adventuring. So, generally, unlike magic items like wondrous or marvelous artifacts, useful items can only grant you the extra 1d if it's something that can help out a skill roll. And this is something between you yourself as the player character and your lore master need to decide together to say, hey, does this coil of rope help me do something of this skill that I'm doing? You can't really use a coil of rope for courtesy. Also, generally, useful items can really only be used for one skill. There may be times when you could possibly use something that you're wearing, for instance, like a fine, well-made cloak or a piece of jewelry that you could use either awe or courtesy. So keep that in mind when you're wanting to use a useful item or create one yourself. And that's actually an option in the game. If there's something you as a player character thinks, hey, you know what, this could actually be a useful item, talk to your lore master, see what useful item it is that you want to create, and then pick out which skill is associated with that. Also remember, useful items can't be used in combat, even if you're using one of the skills as for your combat tasks, as an example. This is only for non-combat scenarios. Keep in mind that you can change out useful items, but not during the adventuring phase. This can only be done during the fellowship phase, that you can add useful items. And consider that it kind of makes a little bit of sense because you could increase your standard of living, therefore actually adding to your useful item list. Or you're picking out the next landmark to go to and you're like, okay, you're judging whether or not you need this versus that when it comes to useful items. Another thing to assume for useful items, if you pick up something like, say, for instance, as listed here in the examples, a box of salt for cooking or some type of balm to soothe pain, it's assumed that you have enough of that unique item to last for that adventuring phase. And then when you go back to the fellowship phase and you're in your safe haven, it's assumed if you pick the same useful item, you kind of replenish those supplies. This is where the One Ring is separate from a lot of other role-playing games, looking at you, D&D, where you're basically bean counting and record it in fine detail about how much something cost and where do you need to go find it, etc., etc. Here in the One Ring, it's just assumed that, if you have the standard of living and you're in an area, a safe haven that would find it readily available, and again, up to the lore master, you can generally pick up that useful item. Of course, obviously, the limitation is your standard of living and how many of the useful items you can carry. And that's just a quick explanation of useful items for the One Ring role-playing game. If you like this video, and if you like the channel and the content that I'm creating so far, please support it by liking this video, subscribing if you haven't already, sharing it with your players and fellow lore masters, as well as commenting in the comments below. I'm Ryan of the North. Thank you for watching.